June 1942. In rural occupied France, a German patrol rips apart a farmhouse, scattering straw and tearing into hay bales in a relentless search for illegal weapons. Their efforts uncover a single brass cartridge, 9 by 19 mm parabellum, unmistakably stamped with British manufacture marks. Under occupation law, possession of an illegal firearm or ammunition was a capital offense. Within hours, an entire family faces execution, their home condemned, their lives erased, all because of a single bullet fired from a weapon that cost less to build than a modest dinner. No Allied tank, bomber, or battleship inspired more fear among German occupation forces than the Sten submachine gun. Not because of its battlefield performance in conventional warfare, but because of what it symbolized. It represented organized resistance directed from London, weapons raining from the sky, the certainty that any civilian in any village, anywhere in occupied Europe, might be armed and waiting. The Sten fundamentally altered the psychological balance between occupier and occupied. Across Nazi-occupied Europe, German authorities responded with draconian measures. In France, Norway, Poland, and the Netherlands, the discovery of British-supplied weapons triggered immediate reprisals. Entire families were executed, farms were torched, villages were erased from maps under collective punishment decrees. The occupiers understood what military historians would later confirm. This crude, cheap, and brutally utilitarian weapon permanently changed the arithmetic of occupation. Consider the economics. A Panzer IV tank required roughly 115,000 Reichsmarks to manufacture. A single Tiger I demanded enough steel, labor, and precision machining to build approximately 40 Sten guns. Yet in the alleyways of Paris, the forests of Norway, or the shattered ruins of Warsaw, armored vehicles were irrelevant. Power lay in the weapon hidden beneath floorboards, waiting for a moment of vulnerability, a quick strike, then disappearance into the population. The Sten was born from disaster. Between May 26 and June 4, 1940, the British Expeditionary Force evacuated from Dunkirk. Britain rescued 338,000 soldiers and left nearly everything else behind. Over 11,000 machine guns rusted on French beaches, alongside 2,500 artillery pieces and 65,000 vehicles. Britain emerged facing the threat of invasion with almost no automatic weapons. The crisis went beyond battlefield losses. British factories were already stretched to their limits, producing rifles, artillery, aircraft, and ammunition. Reconfiguring industrial lines for submachine gun production would take months, time Britain did not have. Across the Channel, German invasion barges were assembling. Intelligence suggested Operation Sea Lion could begin within weeks. The American Thompson submachine gun offered a technical solution, but an economic impossibility. The Thompson was superbly engineered, exceptionally reliable, and disastrously expensive. Early models cost $200 in gold currency, and American factories were consumed with their own rearmament. Even the later wartime Thompson M1A1 at roughly $70 per unit was far beyond Britain's capacity for mass issue. Britain needed millions. At Thompson prices, it could afford only thousands.
That gap demanded a radical solution. In December 1940, Major Reginald Vernon Shepherd and draftsman Harold John Turpin began work at the Royal Small Arms Factory. Their instructions were brutally simple. Design a submachine gun that could be built anywhere, using materials anyone could source at a price any government could afford. Elegance was irrelevant. Speed was everything. Turpin hand-built the first prototype at the Philco Radio Works in Perryvale. On January 8, 1941, just 36 days after design began, the prototype was complete. The name derived from its creators and country, S for Shepherd, T for Turpin, and EN for England. Many assumed it stood for Enfield, but Shepherd later confirmed the true origin. What they created was visually shocking: a steel tube receiver, a skeletal wire stock, a side-mounted magazine welded crudely to the left. rough seams visible everywhere. Soldiers mocked it mercilessly, the plumber's nightmare, the stench gun, the Woolworth special. Every insult focused on its ugliness, but that ugliness was deliberate. Only the barrel and bolt required precision machining. The remaining 47 components were stamped from sheet metal or cut from tubing. A cold hammer forging process developed by Walter Hackett of Ackles and Pollock produced one barrel every 10 seconds, eliminating production bottlenecks that crippled traditional arms manufacturing. Assembly required just 5 man-hours compared to hundreds for the Thompson. At peak output, a Mark II Sten cost roughly £2, about $10. For the cost of 100,000 Thompsons, Britain could manufacture 2 million Stens. This was not compromise, it was a strategic transformation. By comparison, Germany's MP40 cost approximately $24 per unit. The Soviet PPSH-41 achieved massive output but required more advanced industrial processes. The Sten stood alone. It could be built by virtually anyone with basic metalworking capability. Production dispersed across facilities the Luftwaffe would never think to bomb. Lines Brothers Limited, the Triang toy company, known for Meccano and Hornby trains, became the primary producer of the Mark III. Royal Armouries records credit the firm with 876,886 weapons built at its Merton factory. BSI manufactured over 400,000 more. Singer's Scottish sewing machine plant produced early Mark I variants. Subcontractors operated from stables, barns, lofts, and even hen houses. Any space with lathes and presses could contribute. The Sten fired 9x19mm ammunition at approximately 365 meters per second. Effective range was 60 to 100 meters. Magazines held 32 rounds, though experienced users loaded 28 to reduce spring stress and prevent stoppages. Weighing just under 3 kilograms empty, it could be carried all day and concealed beneath civilian clothing. One design feature mattered above all else. Sten magazines were interchangeable with captured German MP40 magazines. This was intentional. Resistance fighters could resupply directly from enemy stocks. Every German bullet became a potential British weapon. SOE demanded even more discretion. The Mark II S, officially special purpose, featured a ported barrel and suppressor packed with baffles. Muzzle velocity dropped to a subsonic 305 meters per second. At 15 meters, the bolt cycling was louder than the shot itself. No muzzle flash, ideal for assassination.
The suppressor degraded after roughly 1 magazine of automatic fire, so agents were trained to fire single shots or brief bursts. Tens of thousands were produced, though exact figures remain unclear due to incomplete records. German special operations units studied the Sten closely. Its ruthless efficiency and minimal material demands impressed even the enemy. When adversaries reverse engineer your weapon, the design philosophy has proven itself. Before examining its operational impact, a brief pause. If you find this analysis valuable, consider subscribing. It costs nothing and helps uncover more overlooked British innovations. Now, back to the resistance. SOE delivered tens of thousands of Stens to France via parachute drops. The scale was extraordinary. On July 14, 1944, Bastille Day, Operation Cadillac saw over 300 aircraft drop 3,791 containers to the Maquis. The symbolism was intentional. France's national holiday became a turning point. Each container held weapons, ammunition, explosives, and instructions. By morning, resistance networks that had waited for months finally possessed the means to cripple German communications ahead of the Allied breakout from Normandy. Eisenhower later estimated that the French resistance equaled 10 divisions, roughly 150,000 fighters by D-Day, many armed with British-supplied Stens. Poland received around 11,000 Stens through airdrops, supplemented by more than 2,000 manufactured clandestinely in 23 underground workshops. The Armia Krajowa developed its own variant, the Błyskawica, meaning lightning,
combining Sten internals with an MP40 style stock. During the Warsaw Uprising, British aircraft flew 186 sorties, delivering additional weapons, though many never reached the fighters. Denmark received thousands via drops and produced hundreds domestically. The BOPA sabotage group built approximately 200 in scattered workshops. Norway produced several hundred in basements and hidden rooms throughout Oslo. The highest-ranking Nazi killed during the war died partly because of Sten unreliability. On May 27, 1942, Czech agents Josef Gabčík and Jan Kubiš ambushed Reinhard Heydrich in Prague. Gabčík raised his Sten and pulled the trigger. It jammed. This failure is confirmed by forensic analysis of the recovered weapon.
Instead of fleeing, Heydrich stood to draw his pistol. Kubiš threw a modified grenade that detonated near the rear wheel, driving fragments into Heydrich's body. He died days later, on June 4th, from complications including infection. The reprisals were horrific. Over 5,000 executed, Lidice and Ležáky obliterated, and 13,000 arrested. The abandoned Sten confirmed British coordination, precisely what German authorities feared. The Nacht- und Nebel decree formalized terror. Illegal arms possession meant disappearance and death. By 1944, thousands had vanished. The psychological effect was profound. Every civilian became suspect, every barn a possible arsenal. The Sten's flaws were real but exaggerated. Magazine feed lips were delicate. Open bolt design risked accidental discharge. Early quality varied wildly. Later production stabilized, and post-1942 models performed reliably. Historians concluded reputation exceeded reality. Germany ultimately acknowledged British ingenuity by copying it. The MP3008 required 1 man-hour to build. Total Sten production reached 4 to 4.5 million units, second only to the PPSH-41. The Sten armed commandos at Dieppe, paratroopers at Arnhem, resistance fighters across Europe, and post-war forces worldwide. It served until replaced by the Sterling in 1953, a refined descendant. Germany could defeat armies. It could occupy nations. It could not defeat an idea supported by millions of cheap, ugly, effective weapons falling from the sky. That is what every rusting Sten in a museum represents. Proof that desperation paired with ingenuity can rewrite the rules of war when traditional solutions fail.